Hello and welcome back to Patreon Radio. And today I want to talk about tower moments. So, tower moments are just those moments in your life when something foundational falls apart. So, something that you thought was solid, something that you thought you could depend upon, crumbles. They're so called tower moments because they're connected to the tower card in tarot. So if you're listening to this, you might want to have a quick look at the tower in tarot, and it shows this big stone tower. It's interesting because it looks impenetrable, like a stone tower, but it's been struck by lightning and it's on fire. And people are falling out of the building. The whole thing is just chaos. And that's what a tower moment is. And I want to talk about that because I want to talk about the necessary intervention that is a tower moment. I think if we look at the planet and everything that we're going through, in the last podcast I talked about this sense of a dark night of the soul, but we are also experiencing in this dark night of the soul certain tower moments, and you might also be encountering tower moments. And I think it's just really useful as we navigate the spiritual path and as we begin to look for signs and pointers and just directions along the spiritual path, that we can begin to see, this tower moment is really important. There's an old expression, when your horse is dead, get off. And that really is the essence of the tower moment. So just to give you a little example of a tower moment for me, I had one. I feel like 2023 and 2024 was just tower era for me in so many ways. There were just, at one level, it all kind of began with the death of my dad. But then that didn't feel so much like a tower moment. That just felt like an inevitability. But then what happened in the immediate aftermath of the death was the structure of my family seemed to disintegrate, and my role in that family disintegrated. So my relationship with my sister and my mother both kind of came to not an end, but definitely a death and a rebirth. What kind of bound us together an awful lot before that was a sort of a sense of duty and obligation, a little bit where I would kind of drag myself home and just spend kind of torturous time there, not always feeling seen, not always feeling heard, just feeling quite small, feeling kind of young and feeling kind of hopeless and powerless. And after the death of my dad, I just created a little bit of space. It was one of the first Christmases that I didn't go home, and that caused a little bit of a rupture, but it was a necessary rupture because what came out of it on the other side was just a more authentic way of me relating to the family. But the tower moment in the middle of it all was where my sister sort of suddenly got divorced and then expected me to kind of just come in and pick up the pieces where her husband no longer was. And I had to suddenly make a decision, and the decision was, no, I can't do that. And that created the tower moment. And it was terrifying because I was suddenly, my mother was disappointed in me, my sister was disappointed in me, my dad was just in the ground, and I was suddenly on my own. So I was on my own, but I was in my truth. There was something kind of interesting about this. And this is sort of the nature of the tower moment, is that it leaves you on your own, but it also leaves you in a space of truth. Another tower moment that I had kind of months afterwards was when I had moved to Mallorca. I'd been here less than 6 months, and was still kind of just experimenting with whether I wanted to be here or not. And I still maintained an apartment in Berlin, which I sublet. But There were problems with the apartment, there were problems with the subletters, and I reached a position where I realized, okay, I either have to give up this apartment or really, really fight to hold on to it. And I gave it up. You know, lightning struck the apartment, metaphorically, and I had to let go of that. And these are what tower moments are in our life. They are kind of moments, they're moments of grace, you could say, but it feels like a terrifying form of grace, because they're moments when you're not quite ready to do things, but they happen. You know, it's and really the kind of the reason that we kind of experience tower moments are really simple. Number one, it's because we've stayed too long in something that's not right. So you might notice that in your relationships. I know that I had been in a relationship before a long time ago. It just felt like we were really stuck. You know, neither of us were happy. There was no intimacy anymore, but we just felt sort of stuck in this relationship until something dramatic happens. And in this case, it was a complete misunderstanding, a message that got sent in the background, real kind of immature stuff. And from this misunderstanding came okay, that's it, we're done moment. And my sense afterwards was that if that misunderstanding hadn't happened, I don't know if I would have had the courage to end things. And I don't think I would have had the courage to end things because I had projected so much of my relationship with my mother onto this person. And so breaking up with them would have been the equivalent of separating from my mother. So I'm sure, like, as you're listening to this, you can all kind of think of examples of tower moments in your life. They're moments when something foundational, something that you've grown to depend on, crumbles. And another reason that they happen is because you've just outgrown it. Like, quite often you can begin to notice these things. You can even begin to anticipate them in some ways. And I think that really is the path of the spiritual warrior, is you can begin to kind of anticipate a tower moment to a certain extent. And then when it happens, it is really less destructive. You know, when you begin to see, okay, I think I'm outgrowing this. It's quite often that situation where, you know, you've begun to really hate your job and you are considering leaving, but you don't quite have the confidence to leave, and then suddenly there's a round of redundancies and you lose your job. You've outgrown something. Another reason that we have these tower moments is because life is really calling you into a bigger version of yourself. A typical thing that happens is sort of we want to move, we want to relocate, we're having huge difficulty like in making the decision, and then suddenly something happens with your home and you're forced to leave. So it's a way to kind of just recognize the tower moment is that they are a moment of grace. It's a moment when something dramatic is happening to enable you to accelerate. And the way that we often sort of respond to a tower moment is we try to rebuild the tower. We try to fix the tower. We try to control it. We try and put everything back. We try and hold on. And this is where it's so important to trust in the destruction, to trust in, you know, the Pema Chodron book, When Things Fall Apart, to trust in that moment that as things are falling apart, they're also falling together. You know, I always think that thing about breakups is really useful. You know, like the thing with the breakup is we're leaving something uncomfortable in the hope that we will find something more comfortable. But we don't know. we might not find that more comfortable thing. We might regret the decision. It's a beautiful, brave and courageous decision to break up with someone. It's a beautiful, brave, courageous decision to move on from something. It really speaks to our growing need for expansion, security and adventure. Those two drives of all humans, the connection and also the freedom. And that really is what we are being called to explore and surrender to when we have these tower moments. And I think what I want to just talk about here is just a little thing about how to at one level recognize a tower moment. I think one, it's something that feels terrible, but there is a part of you that goes, this was probably for the best. It's like that idea when you're working yourself to the bone and then you become sick, and then through the sickness you begin to recalibrate your life. You begin to see, oh, I had somehow disconnected from embodiment, and so on and so forth. I had disconnected from kindness. I was running on autopilot. I was living my life for somebody else. And the way that we then navigate a tower moment is pretty simple. I think the first thing that you just got to do is you have to let that tower fall. Really recognize when the universe, an external force, is moving in to help you. Just let it go. Let it work its magic. And then the next thing is really just to connect to the feminine. Because the masculine side of us, of course, wants to rebuild. The masculine side wants to fix. It wants to immediately, get that security again. But the feminine side of us, our wonderful anima, she just flows through the uncertainty. Our feminine side is really not connected to material security. Our feminine side is connected to love, universal love, universal intelligence, your soul's journey. Your feminine side is not afraid of pain. It welcomes it as an opportunity to expand in consciousness. And the next thing I think is really important, and it's sort of just to allow yourself to sit in the uncertainty. As your tower collapses, as your relationship collapses, as your health collapses, as your job collapses, as your home collapses, as your friend circle collapses, don't try and rush and apportion blame or analyze. Just allow it to be. Just allow this to happen. In the same way that I'm raising two pups at the moment. You might hear them in the background, and in there, sometimes they'll fall asleep outside, and I'll go and I'll pick them up and bring them back inside to bed, and they'll, one eye will open as I'm carrying them inside, and they're just surrendered to it. They're not going, oh, where are you taking me? What's happening? They're just, oh, I'm being moved to somewhere else, and I trust that this other place is for my own good. And that's it. That's kind of what we're being asked to look at with these tower moments. And I think it can be very useful, especially now, the energy that we're in now and the energy that we're in this summer, as huge changes are sweeping across, and you can really feel that there is emerging from all of this. There's emerging kind of like two directions to move in. There's one where you can really get caught up in the fear. You can really begin to go, oh fuck, everything is terrible at the moment. Or two, you can just come back to the feminine, come back to your feelings, and recognize, no, there is a peace inside of me, and I can nurture and cultivate this peace, and it is not dependent on external outcomes. And this is really the kind of the split that I see happening between those who depend on the world outside to be a certain way for them to feel good, and then the rest, and we really are in the minority, guys, who have a kind of an energetic autonomy. We know that we can manage our state. We can connect to love. We can be in our heart. We can witness the destruction and still love. And this really is the lesson of a tower moment. So, guys, yeah, if in your life at the moment you're noticing that things are falling apart or that things are kind of collapsing beneath you, just recognize that anything that's for you will come to you, and anything that's not for you will go away. And be kind to yourself, and love yourself, and trust that your purpose, your mission, your direction in this life is not something you can always see. But just like the puppy who can rest while they're being brought from one sleeping place to another sleeping place, from the car inside to the house, from the garden to the bed, from the sofa to the carpet. Just trust that the universe loves you. Your direction here on life is to simply connect more with your heart, and that anything that falls apart, anything that kind of destroys, anything that crumbles is no longer meant for you. Okay, love you, take care of yourselves, and see you all soon.